Subscribe now.
This right here, it's not just a piece of wood. It's a story. A story of struggle and survival out in the harsh Australian scrublands that ends up with some stunning beauty. This is a Red Mallee Burl, and when I first saw this burl cap, I decided that instead of making a bowl or a platter or a vase, it was so beautiful and so unique that I just had to make a piece that simply showcased the wood as the natural work of art that it is, all on its own. Most of the time as wood turners, we impose our will on the wood. We cut it, shape it, force it into a perfect circle or a functioning vessel. But with a piece like this, something with so much character, doing that just feels wrong. So I'm gonna try something a little different. I'm gonna let the burl lead the way. My goal is to listen to the wood, follow its lines, save as much of its raw, natural character as I can. This unique shape is a real challenge. My biggest struggle was just figuring out how to mount it to the lathe. I had to figure out a way to work on it without damaging the incredible natural edge or the bumpy textured back that I wanted to preserve entirely. But if I can get it right, if I can just reveal that beauty that's already here without wrecking it, this burl is going to become a true masterpiece. All right, let's take a proper look at what we're dealing with. This is a Red Mallee Burl cap, which comes from a type of eucalyptus tree native to Australia. These burls are basically just the tree's reaction to stress or injury. They're these rounded growths just packed with dormant buds and most wild, swirling grain you could imagine. And this one, it's a classic. You can see how it was harvested. A flat cut on one side which perfectly preserved the living, contoured bark edge on the other. The first thing you notice is the color. Even under all this dust and saw marks, you can see hints of deep, vibrant reds and oranges that Mallee is famous for. The heartwood can go from a deep pink to an almost fiery orangish red, which usually makes for a stunning contrast with the paler sapwood. It's this incredible color, plus the dense clusters of burl eyes and swirling grain, that makes every single piece completely unique. But here's the problem part of this story. Red Mallee is incredibly dense and hard. It's got a Janka hardness of almost 2,500. To put that into perspective for you, that's almost twice as hard as red oak. What that means for me on the lathe, it's going to be a battle. My tools will need to be sharpened constantly, and every single cut has to be precise. Softer woods can be forgiving. A piece this hard, it will punish any mistake severely. So the strategy from the start was to preserve the entire backside of this burl. All the bumps, the eyes, the natural texture, I didn't want to change it at all, not a little bit. The real puzzle was, how am I going to mount this? The initial plan was to make a jam chuck on the natural side so I could access the front flat portion, making it perfectly flat, and to create a shallow dish shape in the center. The end goal is to make it look like we polished a window into the core of this wood, leaving the wild exterior completely natural. The wood's the artist here. I'm just the guy cleaning up the studio. So let's get this thing mounted. I feel like this is probably not going to work. But I really can't think of a better solution. So for the time being, we're going to give her a shot. The next goal is to hollow out the inside. This isn't going to be a functioning bowl, but a shallow curved dish designed purely to expose the red grain on the inside. While I carve out the dish, I made sure to leave a small piece of wood in the very center so the live center could stay in contact with the wood, since it's using pressure to keep the wood in contact with the chuck. My first attempt to use a jam chuck on this natural side didn't work out so well. After a fair amount of struggle, I realized that it was actually allowing the piece to move around slightly, making it impossible to get perfect cuts that we needed to flatten the front. So I ended up just using the live center to press it softly enough into my step jaws on my Vic Mark 120 chuck with just enough pressure to be able to turn the face properly without marring the natural edge. I ended up using the 1/2-inch bowl gouge here for the majority of the turning because it gave me a little bit more control than the bigger tool. There it is. You can hear it, right? The tool isn't making those long, smooth ribbons of wood. It's an interrupted cut, where the gouge is hitting wood, then air, then wood again. It's a bumpy ride. You have to have a firm grip and just let the tool do the work, gently skimming the surface. The wood is cutting, well, not exactly cutting like butter. It's cutting more like cutting a block of very, very hard cheese. The shavings are small and brittle, which is totally typical for a wood this dense. But as I get closer to the outer edge, I have to be incredibly careful. If my tool catches the natural edge, it could rip the whole piece right out of the chuck or shatter a huge chunk of this burl that I'm trying so hard to save. With the dish shape finished, I use a Forstner bit in the lathe to create a mortise, which the separate base will fit into. This was a little tricky. I had to hold the burl in my hand with the lathe, turning the bit, And because of this, the bottom of the mortise wasn't perfectly flat. I used calipers to measure the mortise and then turned a tenon on the pedestal for a perfect fit. The turning part is almost done. Now the part that really brings the wood to life, the sanding. Because I couldn't properly grip the burl with the chuck on the lathe for sanding, this next part has to be done entirely by hand. This means I'll be holding the burl myself, and I'll be using a drill with a sanding attachment to carefully work the surface. It's a much slower process and much more intricate this way, but it's absolutely necessary to get the clean, class-like appearance that I want to achieve to show off this piece as a true work of art. I'm starting the sanding at 120 grit. The first pass is going to take care of any fine tool marks that the gouge left behind and start to even everything out. My focus is making a seamless transition from the smooth interior to that rugged bark-covered rim. I don't want to soften the natural edge, I just want to clean it up, get rid of those loose bits, and keeping all of that character. After working through the first few grits, I'm moving to a finer stages, 220, 320, 400, up to 600. With every new grit, the surface gets a little bit smoother, and you can start to see a subtle shine appear. That's the density of the mallee at work. But to take it to the next level, I'm using Yorkshire Grit Ultra Fine Sanding Paste. This is a micro-abrasive polish that will take the surface from just smooth to absolutely flawless. And now for the moment we've all been waiting for, the finish. I'm building up several thin layers of shellac. Shellac is a classic finish that'll give the wood incredible depth and protection, and by building it up in coats, I can dial in the perfect finish. Something with a luster that's right between a satin and a gloss. I'm putting on the first coat with a paper towel. Just look at that. That's instant. The second the shellac hits the wood, the colors just explode. The pale sapwood turns into a warm golden honey, and the heartwood deepens to a rich, fiery red. All those little eyes and swirls that were hiding in plain sight are now just jumping out with an almost 3D depth. This is why I love working with this wood. This right here is the payoff. I'll let this first coat dry, and then I'll build up a few more layers, and I'll see you back here for the final reveal. And here it is. From a rough, gnarled lump of Australian wood to this. The shellac finish has been fully cured and buffed out, and it's brought this piece to life in a way that's just breathtaking. It's got an incredible luster, not a thick, plasticky gloss, but a deep sheen that catches the light perfectly. The smooth flowing inside is a perfect contrast to the wild, untamed natural edge. The colors are just spectacular. Deep shimmering reds that flow into oranges, all framed by that creamy pale sapwood, and the backside with all those bumps and gnarly details, completely untouched, just as I had planned. By deciding not to fight the wood, not force it into an idea of what a bowl should be, but just let it be its own beauty, the result is something truly one of a kind. It's not just a vessel, it's a sculpture. It's a piece of natural art that was coaxed out of the wood, not forced on it. I really believe that the most beautiful things are found in nature. Sometimes our jobs as creators is just to get out of the way and let that natural beauty shine through. From the moment I saw this burl, I knew it needed to be displayed, not just used. It was a challenge for sure, but the reward of seeing this Red Mallee Burl transform has been absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. If you enjoyed watching this come to life, I'd really appreciate if you hit that like button and maybe share it with somebody who appreciates natural wood as well. If you want to see more projects like this, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next one. I'm so happy with how this turned out, and I hope that it inspires you to look for the beauty in imperfect things around you. Thanks for watching.